Hi, another devlog. As some of you guys know, I am trying to finish what I started 15 years ago. That is a video game about this little fella. If you're interested, I made a playlist with the previous two videos. I show the concept art, first initial builds of the unfinished games, and the first experiments in Blender, the 3D software, and Godot, the engine that I'm about to use. But in this video, we are not looking at my game. We are going to look at my two favorite games of all time, the original Half-Life and The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker. We're also going to look at one of my recent favorite games, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Shredder's Revenge. Yash. Like he always manages to make noises when I do the recordings. You guys won't believe how much I had to restart because of him. Yeah, act like you're innocent and all. Where was I? We're going to look at those games and how they are influencing my games. I'm going to borrow specific elements from all three games and I'm going to tell you all about it in this video. Let's go. First, we are going to look at the one and only Half-Life, released in 1998. No other game has impacted me as a gamer more than Half-Life. It really revolutionized the first-person shooter genre, transitioning FPS games into a whole new era. Before Half-Life, shooters followed a simple formula. Minimal story, maximum action. You basically spawn with a weapon in your hand in a world full of enemies and immediately begin mowing down monsters, police pigs, space grunts, Nazis, and whatever these guys are. The immersive storytelling together with the innovative AI of the characters and the enemies was something that we have never seen before in video games.
Raymond, I had a bunch of messages for you, but we had a system crash about 20 minutes ago and I'm still trying to find my files.
But you know, this isn't really a Half-Life tribute video, so if you're interested, I highly recommend you watching the 25th anniversary video that they released recently. I will link it to this video. It shows you all about how the game has been made and how it changed gaming history. Let's highlight the key elements that I'm going to borrow from Half-Life for my game. First one is Gabe's design principle. Gabe is the creator of the game. He really thought that something needs to happen every 3 to 5 seconds to keep the player engaged. Whether it is an interaction with the environment, or an encounter with an enemy, or story development.
What the hell is going on with our equipment?
The second thing that I'm going to implement for my game, and that's actually the thing that I like most about Half-Life, is how they go about cutscenes. No cutscene in Half-Life interrupts the player experience. It's all real time from your perspective while you're able to control your character. And I'm really looking forward to implement my story and any progression exactly like that. You will always be part of the story and the cutscene. It's like pretty much the most immersive way to tell a story, in my opinion. Whether it is a character introduction, an enemy, or any other NPC, or a cool story part, it should be interactive. And in my early game, 15 years ago, I think I actually already tried to do that, because there was this nightmare introduction scene where you were going to relive the past in this nightmare state. It's a really cool story device without taking away control of the player and just keep the momentum going. Because it's just a 2D platform, I don't want people to wait. You can play it from the get-go. The third one is the immersive story, and I think Half-Life does it in a very good way. There is so much going on if you pay attention, but it's not necessary. And with that I mean, if you really want, you can just play the game, do all the gameplay, the jumping, the combat, and you can go straight to the final boss if you want. But you can also just listen to the NPCs or read little notes and books and interact with other characters in the game to learn more about the story. Immersive storytelling is key, and I think Half-Life is like a prime example how to do that in a very good way. The fourth one and also last one in the Half-Life list is world reactivity. They really explain it a lot better in the documentary, so make sure to watch that if you're interested. But the design principle that the Half-Life team came with was that everything needs to react in some shape or form. The world should acknowledge that you exist. Like simple things. In my case, the grass should move when you move past the grass. Some objects you should be able to destroy. You should push things. Water should ripple. All those small things should happen in the game. I feel like if I implement it correctly, you guys will probably just try and do stuff because you know that you will be rewarded by just experimenting with the world. In summary, from Half-Life, I will borrow the immersive, interactive storytelling without the classic cutscenes and a reactive game world. My second favorite game of all time, The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker. The Wind Waker's impact on my game will be primarily the visuals and the overall tone. The game is gorgeous, what can I say? With the timeless toon shading, water effects, the expressive characters. It influenced my game 15 years ago, as you can see right here with the little spoof explosion effect. And now, 15 years later, I aim to replicate the colorful, happy visual style once again. Its combat is satisfying with all the enemies flying away and the little sound effects when you hit an enemy, and I especially like the parry attack, the combat roll. I am planning to incorporate a similar move as the combat roll, the parry attack, to find a good balance between a beat 'em up game and something that has a bit more going on for it. You know, it needs to be somewhat challenging to do combat. Another key aspect of The Wind Waker that deeply inspires my game is the emotional depth found in Link's relationships, especially with his sister and the grandmother. Their bond adds a touching personal layer to the adventure. Whoa! No! 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 I would really like to capture a similar emotional resonance in my game, creating relationships that players can genuinely care about. Oh, this is gonna break my heart in 3, 2, 1. Ah! Ah! Oh, I cannot handle this. Another thing that I really like about Zelda games in particular is the idea of a legendary past playing a significant role in the present. It's basically the hallmark of a Zelda game that I really admire. I'm pretty sure that the introduction cutscene that I made for my game 15 years ago was heavily inspired by the introduction of The Wind Waker, with the paintings on the wall that come to life. Nintendo's ability to tell stories with such a rich past will greatly influence how I develop the lore and world building in my game. Speaking about world building, I am also planning to write the story alongside you. And with you, I mean the members of this channel. For those who want to support my channel and also want to be part of the game, I will be creating a private text channel on my Discord alongside private videos only for members discussing the story. By leaving your feedback on the members only videos or on the text channel in Discord, you can basically be part of the development of my game. No guarantees, of course. I can be quite stubborn and hard to convince, but I will never shy away from good ideas. Also, no guarantees. Don't sue me if I never get to make this game. You know, it's quite a difficult journey ahead, so only become a member if you also want to support the channel. Next in line, that's the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. Shredder's Revenge is a pretty recent game that pays tribute to simpler times in video games. It's a beat-em-up game with turtles, which is quite a coincidence. Or maybe not. Maybe I was subconsciously influenced by the franchise. I was a big fan back then, but not around when I made the game. I also had a pet, a turtle pet, and I think the pet was a bigger influence. But maybe I bought the pet because of the turtles. I don't know. I like turtles, alright? Sue me. The very first thing that I really like about Shredder's Revenge and beat 'em up games in general is the fluid combat. A very smooth and responsive combat system with a variety of moves and combos. I'll be experimenting with adding a similar system, but also trying to add a unique twist to it. Another thing that I will implement is the game's level pacing. The stages are not overly long, maintaining a pretty fast pace that keeps players engaged. Just like the Turtles game, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game, not my game, just like their game, my game is going to have a final boss at the end of each stage. So confusing. Lastly, the 2.5 multi-directional movement. I'm going to experiment with a system where you can go from left to right and also a bit closer to the camera or further away from the camera. It will literally give the combat and the overall game a little bit more depth to it. While Aiden will be a 3D model, the character's perspective towards the camera will be intentionally limited, offering a mix of 3D modeling with constrained viewing angles. I am going to aim for the absolute best of 2D and 3D to create a visually unique style. In a way, it draws experience from games like Paper Mario, which integrates 2D elements within a 3D environment. In my game, Aiden will not be made out of paper, it will be an actual 3D model, but I will limit the actual character's rotation to capture this classic snappy 2D video game feel. Sometimes the combat can be a bit repetitive in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game and even in the Wind Waker. It is often a matter of spamming buttons, so I will definitely put my own twist to the combat in my game. In recent years I've been playing many games where combat has been implemented very well, particularly in the Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order and Survivor games. These games borrow elements from Souls-like games like Elden Ring, While my game won't be as advanced as Elden Ring or the Jedi games, I plan to approach the boss and mini-bosses differently from regular enemies. The regular enemies will appear in larger numbers and have the more beat-em-up turtle style to it. But with the boss fights, you won't get away with just spamming buttons during these fights. All bosses will require some sort of research, first assess the situation, then move in. If I had to draw the level experience, the first 50% would be like waves of enemies, just like a classic beat-em-up game. When you are halfway through the level, you will encounter your first mini-boss with some Souls-like influences. Then it will follow up with some more beat-em-up, just to encounter the big baddie near the end. And that will be actually a very challenging boss. And there are obviously way more games that have influenced me, basically any Nintendo game out there. But I do think that the elements that we just went through will define what makes my game fun to play. It's gonna be the core fundamentals which to build upon. Mainly the multi-directional movement, the beat-em-up parts followed by bosses, and the very immersive way of storytelling without cutscenes that will interrupt the experience. I do think that I'm quite ambitious. I have never made a video game before, and here I am coming up with this wild idea of a video game that I want to make. But I do think you have to dream big before you make the scope smaller because of, real life limitations. And I'm already leaving out many features to make the scope a bit more realistic. Initially I wanted to have a weapon system where you can pick up weapons that the enemies drop when you defeat them. I was also thinking about some superpower mechanics, because there are pearls in the story and those pearls, they grant you powers. So I was thinking about fireballs or beams like Dragon Ball Z and that kind of stuff. But I will leave all those ideas for, a possible sequel. I think, let's think about sequels already. let's be even more ambitious. Yeah, maybe I am dreaming the impossible, but so far I'm having a pretty good time with this dream, so let's continue it. And if you want to follow this journey as well, make sure to like and subscribe, and I see you guys around in the next devlog. Bye bye.